Welcome to the Rio Rancho Board of Education Finance Committee meeting. Today is Monday, September 13th, 2021. It's now 4:30 p.m. We'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Can I get a roll call?
Finance Committee Chair Cullen.
Present.
Madam Board President Galbraith.
Present.
Vice President Morgan.
Present.
Board Member Coleman.
Present.
Board Secretary Scott.
All right, we do have a quorum. Next is approve a prioritized agenda. Was there any questions or any changes that need to be made? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
This is Board Member Jeff Morgan. I make a motion to approve the prioritized agenda.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, this is Amanda Galbraith, and I second.
Okay, President Galbraith. All right, can we get a roll call, please?
Finance Committee Chair Cullen.
Yes.
Madam Board President Galbraith.
Yes.
Vice President Morgan.
Yes.
Board Member Coleman. Board Member Coleman.
She might have stepped away, so we do have a quorum. We do have three.
Okay, and Board
Well, I guess
Secretary
Aspinori and Scott. Yeah.
Yes. Board Secretary Scott.
It passes. Let's go ahead and move on over to reports. The 2020 to 2021 year-end financial report. Arlene?
Good afternoon, Finance Committee Chair Cullen, Dr. Cleveland, and members of the board. I'm going to give me a minute here and I will share my screen. I've provided you with a few different year-end financial reports for 2021. Okay. Sorry about that. Let me put the view to the full screen mode. By a thumbs up, can everybody let me know if you see that? Do you need me to make it a little bit bigger? Are you okay? Everybody all right? Great, thank you. Okay, we'll start off with the 2021 year-end operational expense overview report. And so our 2021 adjusted budget was $174.5 million. Our total expended was 160.5 with 13.9, little under 14 million of available balance. Now a little bit lower in the screen, I've provided the reconciliation for the cash balance for the end of the year. So our total audited cash balance as of June 30th, 2020 was a little over 19 million, plus the 2021 actual revenue of 155.7 for a total of 174.9, minus our expenditures, which is, as I said before, the 160.5 million, leaves us with an estimated cash of 14.4 million. Of course, Again, this is our unaudited numbers. And as you may remember, back in April, March, April, when we are building our budget, we try to project our cash as well as possible. And I actually think that we came pretty close this year. Over projected a little bit, but our projected cash was 15 million. So after we have a completed approved audit, we will, I'm estimating that we will need to be doing a decreasing bar for our operational funds in the amount of short of $600,000. So as you know, when we project this amount, like I said, we're doing it early, and there's still a lot of funds that are encumbered, and so we just try to project as best as possible of what people are going to be spending. So the other thing that we do whenever we are building our budget is to have some reserve cash. And so when we do this decreasing bar in probably like January or February after the audit is over, that is where these funds will come from, is our reserve cash that we have budgeted for this year. The next report that is associated to our year end, excuse me, just give me a minute here, is our fourth quarter expenditure report. And then I also have a revenue report. Now, these two reports, okay, let me try to make it a little bit bigger. Everyone see that? Yes? Okay, so these reports are in detail by fund, function, object code, and job class. So these reports also don't just, the previous report that I just showed you was just for our operational funds. These two reports, the expenditure and revenue, not only have our operational funds, but all other funds are included, which it's a very lengthy, as you have seen, I believe they were all sent to you, but it's 44 pages long, and it covers all of our funds from the general funds, which are our operational, pupil transportation, and instructional materials, goes into our 20,000 funds, which are our special revenue funds. I'm just going to kind of scroll down as we go down through this report here on actually page 11, I believe it is. So here's the totals for our operational, and those are the amounts that I had on the other report. So here's our year-to-date expenses and our budget balance. So it'll be the same for all of the other funds as we go down. As I was saying, the 20,000 funds are our special revenue funds, and those funds are such as food service, athletics, non-instructional support, federal flow-through grants, federal direct grants, and our local grants. Then those are all the funds there. Then the 30,000 funds are our bond, special capital outlay. A little bit delayed here, sorry. And our capital improvement funds. And then finally, our Our 41,000 fund is our debt service fund. And at the very end of the report is the total budget. And so our total adjusted budget was just short of 296 million. And our expenses for last year was 219 point, under 5 million. Then in our revenue report is not as long as this one. Let me pull up the revenue report. It's very similar to this report. It has all of the revenue for each one of the funds. Make it a little bit bigger there. And there's not as many object codes in revenue either, so it's not as lengthy as the expenditure report. So it goes through all of the revenue from each one of the funds. Please keep in mind that our federal funds, we don't always receive all of the revenue within that year, as our federal flow-through grants are reimbursable grants. So with that said, I will answer any questions before we go on to the monthly, I guess, Catherine?
Yes, do we have any questions? Secretary Scott? I saw her come on at 4:33. Is she still on? Okay, it shows that she's left the meeting. So either that or that she came in at 4:33 p.m., but it looks like she's removed. Vice President Morgan, did you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
President Galbraith?
No questions. Thanks.
And I'm sorry, I can't see everybody's face. I only see like little boxes with some pictures. And Board Member Coleman?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. And then, so we'll go on to 2021, 2022 monthly financial reports, and Arlene, the Executive Director of Finance, will go over that one again now.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, I can't see everybody's faces, so I'm just trying to.
Noreen got back on, by the way. Noreen Scott's back on.
Okay.
Okay, I'm pulling up my screen again to present the month ending August 2021 current. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So
I
I know it's early on in
apologize,
the year, but the percentage used is only at 11%, should be about 20%. And the one thing that I did want to point out in this report is that, as you can see right here, the year-to-date encumbrances for our salaries and benefits, we have not ran our encumbrances. Some of you may remember last year, this is a normal procedure of ours that we do. It takes a few months before we encumber all of our salaries and benefits. And there's a few reasons why. One is because we want to make sure that we capture all of the teachers' correct licensure level, and so that adjusts their pay. So we want to make sure that we have all of that in the systems correctly. Another one is that we want to identify which one of the teachers or all of the teachers that are paid out of our special revenue funds, for instance, like our title or IDEA B, those types of things. And so we move those teacher salaries and benefits into those special funds. And then there's quite a bit of movement going around. Maybe a teacher worked at, I'm just going to give an example, Cielo Azul last year, and this year they transferred over to a different elementary. So we track them by location as well. So we want to make sure that we have as many teachers in the right place, in the right account before we encumber. So the majority of our available balance, as you can see, is from salaries and benefits. So next month in October, we should have all of our salaries and benefits encumbered and will be reflected on those monthly reports. The other report I have is our normal revenue and expenditure detail report. That one is showing that, as usual, our revenue is very close to being on track. We're doing good, and it will go into detail the expenses from the last overview report by function. So with that said, I'm open to answering any questions. The district is in very good financial shape, and I'm willing to answer any questions you may have.
Does anybody have any questions? Like I said, I only have like a couple of faces on my screen, so just go ahead and speak up.
No questions.
Okay, right. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to item 3, the ESSER, the application and funding. Mike Baker, Chief Operating Officer, and Susanna, Executive Director, Federal Bilingual and Native American Programs. I have to say that really fast.
Yes. So,
Somebody.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, so Suzanne will be going over the American Rescue Plan, also known as the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, Part 3. Typically, we would refer these grants as sometimes CARES 1, CARES 2, CARES 3. So CARES 1 essentially has been completed. We're in CARES 2 right now, and then we will be moving into CARES 3. This discussion will also dovetail into our next item, capital projects report as well. And this federal funding flows through the title program where Susanna administers. So she has been administering the CARES funding, and Tracy has been assisting her with the administration and the management of those funds. So with that, I will turn it over to Suzanne to go over the specifics of that grant.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairperson Cullen, members of the committee, Dr. Cleveland. These funds come with a number of new requirements, very different than previously awarded funds, which includes continuous development and ongoing revision of our SAFE plan for school reentry, which we have done since the beginning of the pandemic and continue to do, multiple stakeholder consultations, and the reservation of a minimum of 20% of these funds to address the impact of lost instructional time due to the pandemic. And so I'm happy and pleased to report to you that our district has intentionally begun this planning in mid to late spring with the thought of these funds coming into our district through the Title I formula. And our priorities have always been to ensure the highest levels of equity for all students, particularly the students named in the Martinez-Yazzie lawsuit. We are always committed to maintaining high standards of teaching and learning including greater community voice. So we did a lot of efforts in late spring to have student stakeholder listening circles, really listening to different needs of students of all ages, which ranged from elementary through high school. Engaging our existing parent groups, such as our Equity Council, Special Education Advisory Committee, and Native American Parent Advisory Committee, and also teachers. We have also been committed to continuing to offer separate virtual teaching and learning spaces than in person. So that's why we have the Spark Academy and expanded Rio Rancho Cyber Academy. And I'll go through the budget breakdown for ESSER 3 in a little bit. And of course, in our curriculum and instruction, always to accelerate or realign or just in time learning opportunities for our students. So those have been our priorities that have really helped to shape and design the way that we are planning to leverage ESSER 3 funds along with other funding sources to move our community forward. So moving on over now to the ESSER budget that Arlene is presenting. The first few lines you'll see is salaries expense on through the fringe benefits. That's all associated with virtual teacher salaries and benefits associated with that. And then below there, from general supplies down below all the way to other contract services is all dedicated to supporting above 20% of the reserve funds to address the specific needs of our most at-risk students, which include special education, addressing the SEL impact of the pandemic, and the students named in the Martinez-Yazzie lawsuit, but above all, equity for all students during these challenging times. And then below that, you'll see a large amount of money being set aside for the purchase, retrofit, and install of air filtration systems. And that's where the dovetailing will come into play for the next part of the agenda that Mr. Baker will speak to. That's a quick overview of the process and intended use of these funds. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, any clarifications.
I do have a question because I was noticing we have a bar for the 2 contract social workers and 2 contract speech and language pathologists. So on the regular board meeting, it looks like we were unable to fulfill those positions. Is that correct?
Yes, and that bar is submitted for ESSER 2 funds. So right now, those positions have not yet been fulfilled. So with that vacancy savings, if you will, think about it that way, we'd like to move that money up into the 1,000 function to directly still support the same students through tutoring opportunities rather than the contracted services. Otherwise, the money would just sit there.
Okay, so out of the 3, and I have to laugh at myself because I realized I said 111 instead of 3. So I do. It's one of those nights. So on the 3, we're budgeting again for those contract services, but we were unable to fulfill it under the 2. So what is our thought that we're going to be able to fulfill it under this one?
Hopefully by then we'll identify the people and fill those positions. And the real hope and plan has been that we've been able to provide those services since the beginning of this school year, and that would be 2 to 3 years at minimum, to be able to fill in all the gaps of lost instructional time for our students with additional needs identified through special services. So hopefully by then it'll be filled. However, in anticipation that it might not be, we did slightly decrease the amount set aside for those salaries, just knowing the reality of the challenge of filling positions right now.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Again, I apologize. I can't see, and I see nobody else's face.
I don't have a
No, I'm
question, but I just wanted to say, Suzanne, you always do such a great job with all of these programs. And so thank you for all that you do with that. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Board Member Coleman,
No, I don't. Thank you, though.
Vice President Morgan,
No questions. Thank you.
And is Secretary Scott still on, or is she off
Yeah.
again?
Yes, and I have no questions.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Dr. Cleveland? Is she?
I am on.
Okay.
As you can see, the tremendous complexity of particularly the federal dollars and the need to expend one before you can get two and two before you can get three. I just echo what you said. Suzanne's done a fabulous job with it, just keeping up with all of the requirements, expectations, making sure we're staying right on target time-wise. And so I did just want to echo and thank you for your positive comments. And the others, things look pretty good for the district right now. We will be sharing with you in the regular board meeting our enrollment report, some other things, but certainly things look pretty solid right now. One of the challenges that we do have is we certainly have met the growth requirement for this year, so we should be seeing some growth dollars. However, as Mike Baker would share with you, we've already spent that money as we had to hire new teachers, as our enrollment got larger, some other positions. And so it's a really good thing that we're going to generate some income to help pay for some of those new expenses that we had as we saw students come back in. But we're really glad to see the number of students who have returned. That is not the case in a lot of districts across New Mexico. So again, just thank you for the report. Arlene, thank you for the report. And we'll have some additional information in the regular board meeting.
Mr. Baker? Are you there? It's
I
really
am
weird
here.
when we see
I-
like
yeah.
two faces.
I am here.
Okay. And did you have some more on this? Did you
Yeah,
have
no,
anything else
I
on this
think-
part? Section?
No, I think we're good on as ESSER 3. If you want to move to 4, if there's any other questions.
No, don't think there is. We'll go ahead and move on to the capital projects report.
Okay, Madam Chair, Dr. Cleveland, members of the committee. So as I said earlier, that these grants that we are getting from the federal government, specifically the CARES 2 and the CARES 3, Dr. Cleveland's vision is to make sure that we use this funding wisely. This funding is kind of a one-time opportunity. We certainly haven't received these type of grants, nor the magnitude in the amount really ever. And this will probably be kind of a one and done type of situation. So we want to make sure that, of course, we use the funds wisely, but also that in using these funds, that it's everlasting. And so what I kind of want to do is kind of circle back onto the CARES 2 and CARES 3 and kind of walk you through kind of our strategy in leveraging these two grants in order to essentially really build a longer lasting, I guess, legacy for Rio Rancho Public Schools. And that is on our project list. So in your Google Doc, under project list, you should have received that some time ago. And not that we'll be really going over that list in detail. We've already done that. But you do have it in your Google Doc. But I just want to remind you that in CARES 2, what we are doing, and we're doing it currently, is that we are using CARES 2 funding in order to fund some of the HVAC work that is ongoing at this time. And if you recall, well, some of you will recall, and some of the newer members of the school board approved a bond issue, the 2020 bond issue, that had HVAC for a number of our school sites. So our strategy is fairly simple, and that is to use CARES 2 and CARES 3 in order to complete the HVAC projects that we originally planned on completing, thereby freeing up the bond money, which would give the board the opportunity to reallocate that bond money on other bond projects such as CTE. So, for example, if we were to leverage CARES 2 and CARES 3, that would give the district an additional just under $15 million in order to put into that CTE and or other capital projects that the district desperately needs. And as you know, currently, we have been looking at some of the available real estate in the city. A number of you have already looked at some buildings. There is another site that we've looked at. I was supposed to get a purchase price on that building today. I have not received that as of yet. But as soon as we get those numbers, I will populate this document, and I'm sure Dr. Cleveland will give you that information. Once we complete an analysis, get that information, we will plan on getting the board to take a look at that facility as well. So just kind of concluding, the CARES 2 and CARES 3 funding will provide us funding for HVAC, which will then enable us to leverage our bond funding for some projects that the district desperately needs. And the school board will have an opportunity to take another look at the expenditures on the bond side. So with that, I stand for questions.
Vice President Morgan, did you have any questions?
No questions. Thank you so much for asking.
Board Member Coleman?
I'm good. Thank you.
President Galbraith?
I am good. I saw Dr. Cleveland popped on, just so you know when you go through it.
Okay. Dr. Cleveland?
No, I think Mike did a great job of explaining it. It's just really critical that the whole board understands the swap. And what we're looking to try to accomplish and why we're doing it. And the other, just as a matter of semantics, because I had someone ask me that last meeting, CARES and ESSER are pretty much interchangeable. So sometimes you'll hear them as CARES 1, 2, and 3, and other times you'll hear them as ESSER 1, 2, and 3. We're talking about the same pot of money. There's not any difference between them, just depending on it's just a vocabulary difference, and they're used both ways equally. I just wanted to be sure that vocabulary was clear. But I think Mike did a really, really good job, and it really is. We're really hoping to get that number. I know several of you are very eager to get it. As Mike kind of reminded me, it's a good thing to remind me is we don't want to appear too eager because but we certainly are eager, and we're hoping we'll get that information. And I think what complicates the issue, and anyone else jump in, I think what's complicating the issue is the lease, and whether they can work out a way to terminate that lease or receive some kind of compensation for it. And I suspect that's what some of the dialogue is regarding the building. But that's all I have.
You're muted, Catherine.
Thank you. I'm telling you, I'm just going to start the day over. Secretary Scott, did you have any questions?
I do not. Thank you. I thank you for the presentation too. It really makes it clear the way you laid it out.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on to the business portion and consider the approval of the unapproved Finance Committee meeting minutes for June 28th, 2021. Is there any corrections? Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
This is Secretary Scott. I move to approve.
Okay, and do I have a second?
This is Board Member
This is Board
Morgan.
Member Morgan. I second.
Okay, I have board member, Vice President Morgan on the second. Can we get a roll call?
Finance Committee Chair Cullen,
Yes.
Madam Board President Galbraith,
Yes.
Vice President Morgan,
Yes.
Board Member Coleman,
Yes.
Board Secretary Scott.
Yes.
Okay, and the motion carries. And there's nothing else. We're adjourned and we'll see you at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks.